everybody, and welcome to our very first series of college talks, which are going to be aimed at providing different perspectives to current applicants, future applicants, also their parents, and just anybody who's interested in general about the process of college admissions and applications, which is pretty obscure to many people and is a pretty heavily demanding process, or so we think. So yeah, just to give a little bit more insight into admissions and applications and the whole process in general, because there's a lot of people are very intimidated by it. So personally, as a rising senior, I'm embarking on the college application journey myself. And one of the very first roadblocks that I've come across personally is making the big decision. In my opinion, the biggest decision in the whole process of figuring out what I want to pick as my major and what I want to be my career path in the future. So for somebody who always, knew what they loved and, knew what they're passionate about, it might be easy to pick what you want to be your major going into the future. And it might be pretty straightforward to jump to the next step of choosing, colleges for their, resume and what they're interested in. But I'm not really a person that's in that kind of situation. I've only very broadly identified the direction I want to go in, which is technology, but obviously there's so many different areas in that as well. So personally, I at least have a direction, but many of my friends don't even know what direction they want to go into in general. So it's very intimidating and difficult to figure out exactly what you want to do, looking at all the different options. So it can be very hard to do that. There's so many different choices, and there's also a lot of good advice that you can find, but there's also a lot of bad advice that might lead you down a bad path. So there's a lot to consider in this process, and that's just from a junior's perspective, somebody who's gone through a lot of these things and who's had a little bit more time to think about stuff. But for some people who are coming into high school and want to try and figure out a path immediately so they can try and work on it throughout their high school career, it can be even more difficult to try and figure out what they want to do since they're so young. So in terms of just like picking out their curriculum and all of those kinds of things. So I'm hoping that these talks and covering these topics with people who are a little bit more experienced on the subject will help people in that sort of scenario, and also people in my situation, and again, parents and people who are interested in general with just the whole process in general, and will help them ease up a little bit about it. So coming back to the topic, how to choose a major. Today we're going to be focusing on computer science, and we have two high school graduates as guests, and they're heading off to colleges this fall to pursue a computer science major. So guys, I guess we can start off by having you two introduce yourself. So your names, what high school you're from, and I guess the college you'll be attending this fall, and which program you're going to graduate in. So I guess we can start with Neha.
Hi, I'm Neha Sunkara. I just graduated from Montreal School, and I'm going to Cornell University in the fall in the College of Engineering for Computer Science.
Hi, I'm Rohit Kaushik. I just graduated in May from Blackstone Valley High School, and I'm attending Northeastern University in the fall. At Northeastern, I'm double majoring in computer science and business through the honors program, and I'm excited to share some insights and tips I've gleaned by going through the college application process last year.
Okay, guys, thank you for that. So yeah, those are some pretty good colleges, especially for computer science. Well, they're not pretty good, they're really good. So I guess congratulations to you guys. I guess your hard work paid off. So I guess now we can talk a little bit about that hard work and about the journey in general. So I guess all of us in our smaller group are of Indian descent and have Indian parents. So obviously for most of us in general, I'm saying, I don't know too much about the situation for you guys, but a lot of us are exposed to computer science and just IT in general because of our parents or family friends. Personally, that's what it was like for me. So maybe in general, we're kind of exposed to that kind of stuff a little bit earlier in life. But aside from that, what would you guys say was one of the first things that kind of piqued your interest in computer science? Was there something that you were involved in where it kind of clicked and you understood that this was something you wanted to do? Was there anything like that in your life where you kind of you were involved in something or you experienced something that kind of pushed you towards computer science? If you guys could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. At first, actually, I hated computer science. I didn't want to do it because both my parents were in computer science, and I thought I'd end up like them at a desk job if I took computer science. And at that time, I think this was like sophomore year, I was very into astrophysics, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And I actually met a Nobel Prize winner. His name's Dr. Rainer Weiss. And he told me that the key to, I guess, even excelling at astrophysics is actually like data through coding. So all that data and like analysis needs coding with it. So he told me to code. And before that, I didn't even think about computer science. My parents were like, hey, just try this computer science course. And I was like, nope, not doing that at all. So after his advice, I actually took my first computer science course, and I struggled a bit at the beginning, but halfway through the year, I realized I really loved it. So that's how I got into computer science.
So yeah, as to offer a little bit of a contrast to Neha, I've always been fascinated by computing, as Rohan and can definitely attest to. From when I disassembled and reassembled my computer at 6 years old, or I used the Alexa API in Python to build an Amazon Echo from a Raspberry Pi in middle school, or when I wrote my own Alexa skill, I've loved to build with and tinker with computers. And when I went to high school, I actually chose to specialize in computer science then itself. And that further progressed my programming and networking skills. I've now constructed enterprise-grade networks, configuring cloud-based topologies, VLAN security servers, and clients.
Okay, guys, thank you for that. So here we have, I guess, two different journeys into computer science. I guess Neha got some advice from a very accomplished man. So that was pretty crazy that you met somebody who's won the Nobel Peace, but not the Peace Prize, but the Nobel Prize. And yeah, Sunny is somebody, I mean, Rohit, I guess I should say, is somebody who's always been involved in this kind of stuff. So yeah. So I guess moving on into extracurriculars, so something a little bit different. That's also a very big part of college admissions and applications. This is obviously a very important topic because it matters a lot still, even though it's not, school. Well, it could be in school, but we'll get to that in a minute. It is still something that's incredibly important in somebody's plan for how they're going to approach college admissions. So I have 3 questions for you. If you guys forget these questions, you can always just ask me again and I can repeat them for you. But my first question is, what were your major extracurriculars? So things you did outside of school or even inside of school, which would be things like clubs, for example. My second question would be, did they have a role in helping you figure out what direction you wanted to take in terms of your career path? And my third question is, what about them, in your opinion, was, I guess, the X factor or was the thing that made you stand out? Like, what about them do you think stood out to college admissions professors that were trying to look at these applications that you sent in? So again, I guess we can start with Neha.
Sure. So I was the kid who took as many extracurriculars as she could. So I was in like way more than 10, and I tried doing my best in each. And I think the main thing that set me apart was that in each role or each extracurricular, I had at least like part of a leadership position, and a lot of stuff I also did by myself. So I published a poetry book. I actually started a few STEM clubs at my school, and I was a leader in some others. So I think that really set my application apart. And I think the most important part was, at first I was really scared that my extracurriculars were too varied and too diverse to even show that I had an interest in computer science. But I think they actually really added to my uniqueness, that I wasn't just a person who loved computer science, but I was also a person who had very varied interests. Yeah, and that's probably how they helped me in the admissions office. And then what was your last question again?
So my last question is, I guess you kind of already covered this, but like, what about your extracurriculars do you think stood out to college admissions?
Yeah, I guess I did cover that, but the leadership and the uniqueness. But yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm an Eagle Scout, and I led my troop for the past years as senior patrol leader. That was my big thing. And my Eagle project was to build ice rescue ladders for my town pond. Among others, I was also president of my school's Model UN team, and National Honor Society, National Technical Honor Society. And while none of these particular activities were directly connected to either computer science or business, I think they nonetheless demonstrated commitment and passion to what I'm interested in. And from what I've surmised, the X factor in college applications is true unbridled passion for whatever it is that you do. Admissions officers sees like hundreds, if not thousands, of applications over the whole cycle, and imparting that passion to them can help tip the scales in your favor. Because I think this is more of a qualitative than a quantitative process, and I think that's the mentality we all need to think about when we approach this, right? Because you're trying to play to somebody's emotions and thoughts and not their like rational. I got this SAT, I got this much GPA, and while that does get you somewhere, your extracurriculars can show that you're a well-rounded person. Like Neha said, she didn't necessarily go directly into computer science, and neither did I in our extracurriculars, but they did show that we're like well-rounded people, and I think that's really what they want to see.
Yeah, so some great advice there. Yeah, make sure you're passionate about what you're doing and you're not just doing things to do them. It's very important that I guess you enjoy what you do and you're interested in it. Also, if you don't mind me asking, Neha, what were some of the STEM clubs that you, I guess, played a part in founding?
Sure. So I was part of the Math League, and I also founded STEM XX Chats at my school, so the school chapter, as well as I was in a robotics team outside of school, and I think that's kind of it. But yeah, those ones.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so moving on to, I guess, our next question, our next topic we want to cover here. So moving on to applications now, we've talked about some of, I guess, what you guys did in school, outside of school. So moving on to the applications process, I think timing is a big thing because you need to figure out how to, I guess, kind of budget your time and make sure that you do things in a manner that you don't rush it. So in terms of that, that's something that personally I'm also trying to figure out since I've kind of entered that step. What kind of advice would you guys have for, I guess, timing your college applications process? Would you say summer is a good time to start and also wrap up as much as you can? Or would you wait until fall begins to kind of get some more perspectives and like discuss with your peers about it? And also just in general, because a lot of colleges ask you to talk about experiences in your life, do you just leave a little bit extra time so you have more time to just experience things in general, just in case you can write about that kind of stuff? What would you guys say? I guess one question would be, what would your advice be? And also, second of all, when did you start and end your college application process?
Sure. My biggest advice for, I guess, the college application in general is to get things done as early as you can. So I started writing my like rough draft for my personal essay at the end of junior year because it was one of our class assignments. And I think the summer is the best time to write essays. During the fall, there's going to be a lot going on, like all your senior year classes, even different things. And senioritis does hit hard. So I'd say get as much done in the summer as you can. Get all the essays done and have them reviewed also in the summer. Don't be afraid to contact your teachers. And then in the fall, just keep working as well. Just get the bulk of the work done, so like the basics done in the summer, and just keep working throughout the fall. That would be my biggest advice.
Yeah, I think that's a refrain you're going to hear a lot, and I guess I have to say that as well. And I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to use your summer between junior and senior year to the max. And it's really easy to get overwhelmed by like the scores of deadlines you're going to encounter. But if you make your own end dates, it'll help you make the best of it. I'd set, for example, a hard deadline of July 31st or so to finish your Common App essay and the application, which somehow does take a lot of time. The actual Common App, like the actual Common Application, and early action supplemental should be done by about September 15th or so. So you have some breathing room before you actually have to start applying. And also be really early in asking for teacher letter of recommendations. You might be his or her favorite student this year, but the teacher has to write dozens of letters for all different kinds of students. And requesting the letter early on can ensure the teacher can spend more time on your letter and also eliminates any crunch time worries as the deadlines start to approach quickly. Like I ended up finishing all my Common App essay was done by July 1st, and I had it all done and ready. And then I started working on supplementals and finished them all by the end of the summer. And that kept me in a really good place for the actual application process, because there's a lot of things that you don't expect that need to happen between like September and November when you do your EA or ED applications.
Yeah, so Neha, I know you, I believe you applied for like early decision. Um, so do you want to talk a little bit about that as well? Because that's also something a lot of people might be considering. I guess also, especially if you're going to do that, you should get your work done early. So what was like the thinking behind that? Is there a reason you did that? If you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I applied early decision actually to Cornell. And what early decision really means is it's a binding, like it's an early application that is actually binding you to the school if you get in. So because I applied early, it showed my interest in Cornell, but it also told me that I had to get my work done first for Cornell, that it was the highest priority school that I had, and that if I did get in, I would be like, I'd have to go to that school. So that's pretty much what ED is.
Yeah, so that's something that I guess I don't know if you would advise other people to do, but in my personal opinion, is something that people should at least look into because it can just help you in terms of college admissions and help your chance of getting in as well. And also maybe if you just need that motivation to get stuff done early, maybe you should plan to do that.
Yeah, I'd say if you're really sure about a school, I'd apply early decision because it really, really actually shows interest in that school and it helps you just, have all your passion, get all your passion done, like into that school and have the application done.
Yeah, I would also say make sure that it's the school for you and not just, I don't know, maybe just the best school. You have to make sure it's the right fit and everything. But if you're sure of that, then that might be something you look into because it can be helpful. Okay, so I guess moving on to my final question here. It's a very broad question. My final question is, if you were to give one like piece of philosophy or advice to like rising seniors to follow, in order to like keep their sanity, I guess, and reduce anxiety levels. I know you guys talked about getting stuff done early as well. I guess that could be your answer if you wanted to. If you had to give one piece of advice or just way of thinking that might help them, what would it be?
I'd say two things. I think the first thing is to spend as much time as you can with your friends, which does sound a little like, contradictory since, got to spend time on applications and spend time with friends. But really, spending time with friends was the way I relaxed and I didn't get to think about the college process when I was with them. So that was definitely like what like gave all my anxiety, like it completely took out all my anxiety. So hanging out with friends. And the second one was, I think, picking the right schools. For me, I like did know where I wanted to go, but at the same time, I wasn't afraid of my safeties. Like I loved my safety and I would be totally fine if I was going there right now too. So I'd say pick schools that you feel are right for you, not because they're competitive or something like that, but that, you feel like you'd fit in, that you feel like you'd get academically challenged in a good way. And for safeties, like make sure you like them because you never know what's going to happen and you should like your safety just in case. So
Yeah, this is definitely a tricky one. You definitely start feeling inundated with the sheer amount of things you need to do to apply very quickly. But seriously, like compartmentalize the different parts of the application process. So when you divide it up, it just feels a lot more manageable. And it is actually a lot more manageable. Think on like, for example, like 1 week, you just work on SAT. You don't touch essays. You don't touch letters of rec. You don't touch anything else. Just worry about you worry about your SAT. And then the next week you can switch gears to essays or something else. So basically, just think about one thing at a time because when you start looking at the big picture, it starts to look really, really unmanageable. But at the same time, when things start to feel intractable, because they will start to feel intractable after some time, just stop for a minute, relax, and reflect on your end goals. Because again, you're doing this for a reason, and if you look at that reason, it doesn't feel that bad.
just to pop in and give another advice, I'd say talk it out with someone as well, especially since like if you do I can't say words, compartmentalize it. If you talk it out with someone, they will hold you like accountable to it. So if I told someone, yes, I will get something done this week, they'll probably ask me that later that week, oh, did you get this done? So talking all your stuff out with someone really helps, especially your essays. Just reading them and having people give you critiques on them is super helpful.
Yeah, and rely on your parents, guys. I know it might be annoying, it might be tough, but the only person who's actually going to hold you to all those self-imposed deadlines you're going to make is your mom or dad. And they really care about you. They want to see you succeed. So use them as a crutch this whole process, because they'll be the most willing crutch you can ever find.
Okay, guys, thank you for that advice. I'll make sure to keep that in mind going forward. So I guess wrapping up, do you guys have anything else you want to add at the end? Something we may not have discussed? It's fine if you don't have anything, but just in case you guys want to add something else, I guess I'll just leave it open if you guys want to say anything.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about ED, EA, and RD, just so we get this clear, right? ED, she explained very well, that's early decision. You make a decision earlier in the process than you do normally. And then there's EA, that's early action. That's what I did for most of my colleges. November 1st, you send in your applications. But other than that, it's no different than applying normally, which is known as RD, or regular decision. That's January 1st deadline, which is why you hear about all those horror stories, Christmas break, writing all the essays, right? Don't do that, but that's a different story. But January 1st, and what happens is, unless you did ED, which is early decision, you get all your decisions in the month of March, mostly. By the end of March, I know this year is a little bit of an exception where it's like some of them came out in like April, but basically all the decisions come out in March. You get the month of April to decide. May 1st, you have to put in your deposit and you're done. So that's the whole process in a nutshell, that way.
Just to pop in, also waitlisting. So if you do apply EA or ED, sometimes you can be waitlisted and brought into the regular decision pool. And some of my friends actually got waitlisted from some of their schools, and they put in a deposit for another school, but they're still waiting to hear back from all their waitlists, because waitlists are usually, I think, looked at in over the summer. So they'll actually get their decision in like August or something. So they might have to go to a completely different school later.
Yeah, that's definitely true. One other thing, just before we end this, make sure you know what colleges you want. And I think that's one thing, like, it's not so much a regret, but something I wish I thought about before. I applied to a lot of colleges, getting caught up in everything. And I realized after I got my decisions, I only want to stay in like the local area. I don't really want to go to fly. I don't want to like fly to my college or anything. That's ended up like part of the reason why I picked Northeastern. But like, if there's some factor that you know that's going to make your decision for you, or make part of your decision for you, make sure you consider that before you apply, because that's a lot of wasted effort for things that you don't necessarily need.
Actually, to add on to that as well, one of my friends, who actually was the year before me, made a chart of the school she was applying to and wrote down the pros and cons of each and every single college. And if it was a pro, she'd give them a plus, like a +1. And if it was like a minus, she'd give it a -1. And she totaled all the points that she got for each college, and she like made all her college lists based on that. And I think that really helped her find out which college to go to, because she's going to think Williams right now. And I saw her list, and Williams had a lot of like pro points for her. So that really helps as well. One of my friends also struggled with deciding which college to go to, and I told her to make a chart. So it helps.
Definitely.
Okay, guys, thank you for all that great advice. It's okay, you talked a lot, it's fine. We all want to hear this kind of stuff, so it's all good. So I guess wrapping up, thank you guys for taking time out of your day, especially in the summer, to come talk to us about this kind of stuff. It's very helpful information for a lot of us to keep in mind going into, college and applying for all this stuff. It's a big process, but I'm sure it'll be a lot easier keeping some of this stuff in mind that you guys have talked about. So yeah, again, thank you for this. Thank you to anybody who listens to this, I guess. Anybody who cares enough to listen. So yeah, again, thank you guys, and yeah, have a nice day.